Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. Licensed lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and we got a busy show. The Celtics, they're tearing apart that 2024 championship team. The KD, he got traded again, and we have a new NBA champion. But we got to start with what's going on tonight, and that is the NBA draft. And it's pretty obvious what's going to happen first. What's going to happen first is pretty obvious. We knew it during the night of the draft lottery. Nico Harrison, after making one of the worst trades in NBA history, trading Luka Doncic, gets very lucky, wins the lottery, and it's no question who the Mavs are taking number one overall. It is going to be Cooper Flagg. I mean, he clearly was the best player in college basketball at 17, and has the most upside of any player in this draft. Can do everything well. He could shoot the three, he could rebound, he could distribute, he could do everything well. There's no question that Cooper Flagg will not be. There's no question that Cooper will be the number one pick in the draft. He will be the number one pick tonight, and the Dallas Mavericks will take him number one overall.
Yeah, I agree with you here. Cooper going number one to Dallas. He's been hyped up, probably since like his sophomore year of high school. He kind of, it's the first time I kind of saw him. And I think, both ends of the floor, he's a pretty good player. I know like the one kind of weakness you could say is his post defense. He'll reach in and, when he does that, sometimes gets beat down there and, but I do think he's got pretty good instincts overall defensively. And I was kind of surprised how well he shot the three ball because his mechanics are a little clunky, but it seems like it worked for him. So, but yeah, Dallas, they luck out big time here getting Cooper Flagg.
They sure do. They absolutely do. Now, with the number two pick, that is the Spurs. And this one's becoming pretty obvious, too. It looks like the Spurs are going to take Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. I mean, he's another one. He's the second best prospect in the draft, can distribute, can shoot. He's a really good player. And it looks like the Spurs are going to add to that young core of Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, your man, De'Aaron Fox. They're going to add to that young core, the Spurs are going to be a really good team for years to come, seeing the young talent that they have. With the second pick, I got the Spurs taking Dylan Harper, and Justin, I assume you got the same.
Yeah, I got Dylan Harper here going as well. Going to be interesting to see what they, how they deal with it, because now you have Castle who can run the point. You got Fox and Dylan Harper as well, so you got kind of 3 point guards there. And he's a lead guard, like 6'5", 6'6". He's a savvy scorer. And he's really good at just kind of knowing how to play with tempo. Knows how to kind of control the games. Never feels like he's in a rush either. And again, he just has such great handles. And didn't miss some time last year with an illness. And he had another injury. It was his knee, foot, something like that. Did miss a little bit of time, but an unbelievable scorer here. And should be the number 2 pick overall.
I 100% agree. I agree. He should be the number 2 pick. Now, the draft will begin tonight at 3, and it looked like Ace Bailey was going to be the number 3 overall pick. But he canceled a workout with the team that's been taken, with the team that has the number 3 pick, and he's been canceling workouts all the time. He's not been working out for teams. So here's the thing with the Sixers: do they take the risk and take Ace Bailey, or do they take the best guy available that's not Ace Bailey? And I think that's what the Sixers are going to do. I think they're going to take the next best guy available that's not Ace Bailey, and I think they're going to go VJ Edgecombe here. I think this is a team that they got Maxey, they got Embiid. They're gonna need a wing because Paul George only has 2 years left on his contract, and his best days are behind him. So with this third pick, I got the Sixers taking VJ Edgecombe at a Baylor. I mean, his defense is pretty good. I mean, he needs to be more consistent. His 3-point shooting needs to be more consistent. He's got to make guys better. He's got to do a better job making guys better around him. But he's the 4th best player in the draft, and I get the Sixers taking him 3rd overall. I got the Sixers taking VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor with the number 3 overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Sixers doing at 3?
For me, I got him going to Texas guard Trey Johnson.
Oh, you're going Trey Johnson here.
Yeah, I really like his shot making ability. Somebody that just high level scorer last year. Such a quick kind of catch and release type shot. He's not an aggressive attacker, and he's pretty poor finishing around the rim. He was like in 28th percentile at rim finishing and 33 percentile on like layups and all that. So like that's something he's got to improve on. But if you want 3-point shooting, Trey Johnson your guy, and I could see him kind of ended up going to Philly there. Was really impressed by him, and unfortunately, Texas had a little bit more talent, better coach. That would have been a pretty good. That Texas team could have been really good with him kind of leading the way.
Yeah, they could have been. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Sixers do. To me, that's obviously where the draft starts. The draft is going to start tonight at 3 because you know what the first 2 picks are going to be. The draft will start tonight at 3 with the Sixers. Now we'll go to the team with the 4th pick, and that is the Charlotte Hornets. And for me, I'm gonna have them add some shooting. And I'm gonna have them taking Con Canoople out of Duke. Really, really good. Really, the thing about him is good 3-point shooter, good defender. And that's something Charlotte needs. Charlotte needs a 3-and-D guy, a guy who can play defense, a guy who can hit the 3. Con Canoople was a really good number 2 behind Cooper Flag, a team that got to the Final Four last year. So for me, for the number 3 overall, for the number 4 overall pick, I got the Hornets taking Con Canoople out of Duke. Justin, what do you got the Hornets doing at 4?
I got him going VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor. Somebody, dynamic athlete, who just can get downhill and can get to the rim and does an unbelievable job of getting that. And he's a really smart basketball player as well. But he knows kind of when he's got to get to the basket. He knows kind of when to pull up. He's just unbelievable. Little bit maybe as jump shooter a little bit's got to improve a bit here, but I think he's an unbelievable athlete. I think offensively he could really help out Charlotte. So I'm going with VJ Edgecombe here for the Hornets.
Yeah, they really can't go wrong with Edgecombe or Canoople. They need help. I mean, LaMelo Ball has trouble staying healthy, and he needs another guy around him. So Charlotte needs help. So I don't think they can go wrong with either Canoople or Edgecombe here for the Hornets. Now at number 5, the Utah Jazz. Crazy they're picking 5th. They have the worst record in the league. The 2 teams with the worst records in the league are picking 5th and 6th. That's kind of crazy that they are, but that's the reality of the NBA draft lottery. But for the Jazz here, I'm gonna go with Trey Johnson here. I'm gonna go with Trey Johnson. I mean, really good 3-point shooter. The defense needs to improve, but they add some scoring. They got Marketing. They got Jordan Clarkson. They got George, but I think you need scoring in this league. I think Trey Johnson will add scoring, so that's why I got the Jazz taking him with the 5th overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Jazz doing at 5?
I got him going with another shooter, Con Canoople out of Duke, the forward. I think he has one of the highest floors in this class. My one big concern with him, especially picking him like number 5, is his foot speed, because that's just something where it's tough to improve on. And can he kind of be able to, be good enough on the defense? He's gonna be an unbelievable shooter and scorer, and it's gonna help with his size. But it's just kind of the foot speed. Can he kind of keep up with the NBA speed? That's my one concern. But I just think the offensive upside with him, it's huge because he's a very smart. Because I think too, like for his lack of athleticism, he does have a really good kind of basketball IQ, which I like as well. So I think his offense game can make up for some of the defensive struggles, but I think could be a really nice pick for the Utah Jazz.
Now at number 6, that is the Washington Wizards. And I think at this point, because Ace Bailey projected to be the third best player in the draft, at this point, I think he's clearly the best player in the draft. And the Wizards need talent. They need talent. I know Ace Bailey's been, he's missed workouts. He's been kind of a prima donna. But the Wizards, let's be honest, they need talent. I know they got C.J. McCollum yesterday in a trade. They traded him for Jordan Poole, and they Bud Carrington. But they do, and they got Alex Sars. They got some young talent, but they need more young talent. And they got to take. I feel like they got to take the best player available. And at this point, it's Ace Bailey. I mean, Ace Bailey. He's a pretty complete prospect. He's a complete prospect. Good 3-point shooter. Good defender. He's got to do a better job of making guys around him better and taking. He sometimes takes stupid shots. And let's be honest, he was the second best player on a team that went 15-17. But I just think talent-wise, he's the best player there. That's why with the 6th pick, I got the Wizards taking Ace Bailey. Justin, what do you got the Wizards doing at 6?
Yeah, I got Ace Bailey too, and I think if you're a Wizards fan, if you still land Ace Bailey at number 6 after you kind of thought you being played with Cooper Flag, I think you got to come out pretty happy, or at least feeling a little bit better. Played on a bad Rutgers team, which I compare it to you spend 98% of your cap on 2 players, and then the rest of the team you spend the rest 2%, and
that
most
team
of those guys weren't.
They were terrible. They were terrible.
Most of that team. Yeah, most of that team. The rest of that team, most of them should not have been Big Ten players. Like that was the issue. Wow. Just spent the 2 players.
So they pretty much had 2 great players and a bunch of mid-major players.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. So I like Steve Peichel. I'll defend him there with that. But yeah, going back to Ace Bailey, it's the pre-draft stuff's been a little weird, and I think that does worry you a bit here. But yeah, the Wizards need talent, and I'm not going to compare him to KD, but I do see some KD-like things with his ability kind of as a 3-level scorer with his size. I think he's a little bit more physical coming in than KD was, but he's a reliable scorer. Could beat the defender in any spot on the floor, which I think KD's pretty good at doing, especially in his younger days. So I do see some flashes there of him as well here. So I really like Ace Bailey, and I think if you get him at number 6, as the Wizards should be really, really happy.
The question is, do you like the way he's went about the draft process? And I haven't. I haven't liked the way that he went about the draft process because I know he has KD comparisons, and I know Rutgers was absolutely terrible last year. I get it, but dude, you were the second best player on a team that was 15-17. You shouldn't be canceling pre-draft workouts. You shouldn't be doing that. And this is the reason why there's a good chance you're going to slide. Like you probably would have been a shoo-in to go to the Sixers at 3 if you didn't act this way. But now you're now, because you act this way, you want to be 6. And I think the thing about him is he wants to be the guy on the team. Well, he thinks this is an easy path to superstardom going to the Wizards because he's going to put up the most points. It's hard enough to be a superstar in this league anyway. So I just don't like the way he's going about this draft process.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I haven't. It's not a great look. By him here because you mentioned the Rutgers team wasn't very good. That was Rutgers fans were most hyped they've ever been about their basketball team, and it ended in horrific fashion for them. Because it's just it is tough to be a superstar. And he's still young. He's 18. He doesn't turn 19 till August, and you can talk about maybe some KD stuff in his game here. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning, and because Halburn did it to go to the Kings, because he was coming off that wrist injury, and he didn't give anybody, the medicals until Sacramento. Sacramento was the only team that got him. So and it doesn't feel like Ace Bailey's necessarily doing it to try to maybe find the best situation for him, just the one where I'm going to put up the most numbers right away. I'm going to be the best player. I'm going to be the go-to guy, which sometimes isn't necessarily the best case to go in to this. So I'm not a big fan of it either.
Yeah, me neither. But you can't pass on his talent, and the Wizards at 6, I don't think can pass on him. So that's why I got the Wizards taking him at 6. Now with the number 7 pick, that goes to the Pelicans. And see with the Pelicans, they've given up a couple guards. They traded C.J. McCollum. I know they got Jordan Poole, but they traded C.J. McCollum. They traded McCollum. They traded Brandon Ingram too at the trade deadline. So I think they need a guard, and I think they need a true point guard. They need a true point guard. And I think that guy is Jeremiah Fierce, as we saw when they played UConn in the tournament. Really good player, really good at getting to the basket. Now, His defense needs to improve. He needs to improve at a three-point shooter. But you could argue this guy might have the highest ceiling outside of Cooper Flag of anyone in this draft. He becomes a good defender and he becomes a good three-point shooter. He might have the highest ceiling of anyone in this draft. He might have the highest ceiling of anyone in this draft. So with this pick, I'm gonna go with Jeremiah Fears. I got Jeremiah Fears going number 7 over the Pelicans. Justin, what do you got the Pelicans doing at 7?
Yeah, I got him going Jeremiah Fears too. I see a lot of De'Aaron Fox in his game. Just with the speed with the ball. His 3-point shooting is not great right now. Same thing with Fox. He's really had to develop that. I think Fox is a little bit better defender than Fears is coming in the league. But Fears is such an elite ball handler. And right now, after they made the trade last night, the only guy that was healthy last year in the Pelicans roster that averaged over 5 assists a game was Zion Williamson. And it's tough to even call him like a healthy player because he's banged up a lot. So and I was impressed because usually like the reclass like point guards and center in college basketball, the two major ones that kind of struggle to kind of fit in and figure some things out. But Fears an unbelievable job. He's still young and the turnover rate was like over 20% last year. That's a worry. But again, I think New Orleans now needs a point guard, and I think Fears would fit beautifully in there.
I think he definitely would. I think he definitely would fit there. So we will go to the number 8 pick, and that goes to the Brooklyn Nets. If you look at the Nets right now, some good, they got a good guard in Cam Thomas. They got, Cam Johnson. But the big thing about the Nets is they're not committed. I don't think they're really committed to Nick Claxton. I feel like they need a rim protector. And that's why with the 8th pick, I got them taking Command Malawatch out of Duke. Now, his offensive game, as we know, needs a lot of work. Even his defensive game's a little bit inconsistent. But I think this guy, if he could put everything together, I think he could be a really good player in this league. And that's why with the 8th pick, I got the Nets going with Command Malawatch out of Duke. Justin, what do you got the Nets doing at 8?
Same pick here. Come on, Malawatch out of Duke. We saw he had a rough time the last time we saw him on the floor. Rough time against that Houston team in 20 minutes, couldn't grab a rebound. But yeah, he can his wingspan 7'7", just he's a defense anchor down there. He's solid finisher around the rim. The rest of the offensive game, as you said, that does need a lot of work. He only started playing basketball when he was 13, so he's still kind of learning the game here, and it's going to be tough to do that at the NBA level. But I think this fits the head coach Jordy Fernandez really well. He's a defensive kind of minded guy, so I think adding Malawatch too to kind of be that rim protector as well here, it's going to help the Nets out here.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it definitely will. Now going to the number 9 pick, and that is the Raptors. And looking at the Raptors, I think they got some guard play. They got Brendan Ingram. They got Ingram. They got RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. But I think they need an inside game. You need kind of an inside guy that could score. And let me tell you something, Derek Queen, as we saw in the NCAA tournament. He hit a buzzer beater in the second round. Derek Queen definitely could score. And I think he's going to go number 9 overall. Yes, his defense needs to improve, but I think he's the guy who's going to go 9 overall to the Raptors. Justin, who do you got the Raptors taking at 9?
Yeah, I got Derek Queen here as well. He's got a ton of skills for his size, kind of old school post player as well. High levels kind of score around the rim. Definitely limited defensively right now. And he only took 35 threes last year in college. So I think he was only about 20% on those 35 attempts. So that does need some improvement here. He's my one worry is he might have to play more of a forward spot at 6'9", the NBA level, which kind of
that's a worry because he doesn't shoot the 3. He didn't shoot the 3 well last year either in college.
Yeah, so he didn't. That's my one worry, but he's another like high level kind of IQ player here. And I think for Toronto would be a nice get for them. Here for Derek Queen. I love watching him play. He does definitely look like kind of more old school big at times.
Yes, he definitely does. Now we'll go to the number 10 pick, and that goes to the Suns after the Kevin Durant trade. And for them, I'm gonna take a guy that could play some defense, and I'm gonna go with Colin Murphy Bowles out of South Carolina. Good, he needs to improve his shooting, but he's really good defensively, which is that team definitely losing Kevin Durant. They're gonna need defense, so he's gonna have to defend. And he's got to improve his shot, but I think he's got upside to really help that team going forward. That's why I got Murphy Bowles going to the Suns at 10. Justin, What do you got? What do you got the Suns doing at 10?
I got him going forward as well here, but Carter Bryant at Arizona. Guy came off the bench here, but really elevated his draft stock with the combine and the workouts. Because this year, he was a top 30 recruit, played in the all McDonald's All American game last year, but he's got the ideal kind of frame to be kind of a wing guy and be a 3-and-D guy. He was outstanding scorer in high school. And I know, I know at the times last year, just I think I thought we were going to see more from him from that Arizona team last year, but he definitely has some room to prove, and he does have the ability to kind of create offensively as well. So I think a good kind of 3-and-D guy here for Phoenix.
Yeah, he definitely could be done. They're going to need a 3-and-D guy because they just lost a 3-and-D guy with Kevin Durant leaving them and getting traded to the Rockets, and we'll get to that later in the show. With the number 11 pick, we got the Portland Trailblazers, and for them, seeing that they lost Anthony Simmons, they did trade for Drew Holiday, but there's a good chance Drew Holiday might be gone. So I think they take another guard here. And I got them taking Kasparis Jakučiūnas out of Illinois. I think he's really good at distributing the ball. Needs work on the 3-point shot. Needs work at get to the basket, but good at distributing, good at making guys better around him. I got the Blazers going with Jakučiūnas at number 11. Justin, what do you got the Blazers doing at 11?
I got him going forward here with Colin Murphy-Boyle out of South Carolina. Can help Portland's defense here. Can make an impact too on both ends of the floor. Very effective and efficient interior scorer. As you mentioned a few minutes ago, he's not a 3-point threat at the moment. And I think he kept it was a bad South Carolina team, but he kept them in a lot of games last year. And he's really good basketball player, and I think could make a nice impact for Portland right away.
Yeah, I think good. I think he definitely could. Now we got the Bulls at 12, and you look at this team, and I think they need some defense, and this is where I'm going to go with Carter Bryant. I think Carter Bryant. Yes, he played a very limited role. He came off the bench at Arizona. He only averaged 6.5 a game, but I think he's good defense. He can defend. He's good. He's good defensively. Now he's got to improve. He's got to improve the score. He said this could be a good 3-and-D guy. Look at the Bulls roster. This is something they need. So I am going to take Carter Bryant with number 12 overall pick. That's when you get the Bulls.
Yeah. Yeah, for me here, I got going point guard Kasparis Jakučiūnas, the guard out of Illinois. For what he lacks explosively, he makes up for it with his kind of skill set and very high basketball IQ. I know he struggled from 3 last year, because he was an international guy, and kind of reading the scouting reports on him last year. He shot 31 last year from 3. I think he is a little bit better of a shooter than the numbers would indicate from last year. And, and he's pretty good finisher around the rim as well. But, the turnover rate was 25% last year. So that's something that's got to come down. But he's a really good playmaker. He's got some size as well. So I got him going Jakučiūnas here.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what the Bulls do at 12. Now for the Hawks at 13, I think they go with another guard here. And I'm going to go with Igor Demin. I think if they get him, eventually you can move Trae Young off the ball. He could become a shooting guard. I think they could be a really good fit. Demin and Young, I think they could have a really, really good backcourt. And you got Risser as a wing. So I got them taking the point guard at BYU. I know, he needs to be better at getting to the basket. He needs to be a better shooter, but he can distribute. We know that. So I got them taking the point guard out of BYU with the number 13th overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Hawks doing at 13?
I got him going Jonah Berger, the center from France. Now, if they hold on to Trae Young, I know there's conversations. He'd be kind of their big lob partner for Trae Young that he hasn't had. He didn't start playing basketball until he's 14, so he's still really raw. He's really good around the rim. He's got some pretty good hands. Will block a lot of shots, but he's still learning the NBA game, and that's tough to do. He's still learning basketball. It's tough to do at the NBA level. Now, with them bringing in Porzingis too, I know Porzingis is banged up, and we'll get banged up in his career, and we'll get to that later in the show. But 2 now next year can kind of learn a little bit under Porzingis and doesn't have to kind of play a ton of major minutes right away. But I think somebody, if they want to hold on to Trae Young, they want him there long term, would be a nice piece for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would definitely be a nice piece for the Hawks. Now, with the number 14th pick, I got the Spurs taking an international guy. I had them taking the guy, was it Noah? It's a guy from France. Noah, I can't pronounce his last name.
Isga.
It's gone because the Spurs, they take a lot of international guys. They continue to do that. And Justin, to wrap up the lottery picks and wrap up our draft coverage, what do you got the Spurs doing at 14?
I'm gonna go with Cedric Howard. Out of Washington State here, the Spurs got a shooter who can also defend. Can space the floor. He only played 6 games last year, coming off a shoulder injury. But at Eastern, I loved watching him. Eastern Washington. A couple years ago, he was 41%. 41.4% catch and shoot on 111 attempts. So he can, score around the paint as well. He was going to transfer to Duke and play for them this year, but because of the combine that he had, decided to keep his name in the draft here. So only coming off, 6 games last year off the injury, but he's a really, really good shooter, and Spurs get somebody as well there for another wing guy.
Yeah, Spurs in good shape. They got two picks, one of the best young players in the game, and the Rookie of the Year. The Spurs' future is very, very bright. But we'll move on to other NBA news, and we'll talk about the Celtics first. And the way, and on Monday night they traded Drew Holiday. Last night they traded Kristaps Porzingis. They are making moves. The Celtics are definitely making moves. They trade Holiday, they trade KP. The Celtics are definitely making moves. And I think I'm not surprised about any of this. The Celtics, they need to get under the second apron. They had to do it. They didn't want to pay the luxury tax. They had to get under the second apron. And I'm not surprised at all. I'm watching this postseason. Holiday has kind of regressed. KP, he has trouble staying healthy. I'm not surprised at all with what the Celtics are doing right now.
Yeah, I think Brad Stevens has done a pretty good job yet again. I think getting Simons was a highway robbery here, and I think they need to retool here because they're Holiday and Porzingis, their cap, it was gonna be like 500 million. So that was gonna be a really expensive roster, and then you have no Tatum next year, so you really want to pay all that. You don't have your number one guy, so it makes a lot of sense here. And with Simons too, he's going into a contract year, so it's kind of no risk. Like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, they let him walk. If he has a good year, you bring him back. So I really like what Brad Stevens kind of done here, and yet again, just making, I think, really, really smart moves.
I do. I think, getting the picks, getting Simmons, getting Anthony Simmons. I think they've done a really good job. Oh, it's going to be very hard next year without Jason Tatum. So what they're doing is they're scaling back a little bit. They're scaling back. I mean, now you could argue that Simmons is good or better than Holiday, but they traded KP, so they're scaling back a little bit. They'll probably be, they'll be a fun team to watch, but they're not going to be the best defensive team next year. So they'll be like a, 5 or 6 seed in the East. So they're scaling back a little bit, but they're making the moves that when Tatum comes back for the 2026-2027 season, they'll be right back to being championship contenders.
Yeah, they will. They definitely will. Yeah, defensively next year they're going to probably struggle. They still got Brown. They should be able to shoot. I did hear too. I guess they are trying to move up to get Yakachonis, that guard.
I've heard about the Yakachonis rumors. Yeah, I've heard about, and that makes sense because they traded away their point guard, so that does make a lot of sense that they're trading up to get Yakachonis.
Yeah, so that's somebody. Maybe they make a couple moves tonight, and they can find a way to kind of secure him as well, and find their point guard for the future. Now that they did trade Holiday, so yeah, we'll see. And Brett's I think they're probably next year middle of the pack Eastern Conference team. But with how wide open the Eastern League or the Eastern Conference is going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if they're sitting there in the Eastern Conference Finals. But guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to make these finals. I mean, I think because you still have. I mean, Cleveland is still good. They won. Let's not forget they won. I know they've been terrible in the playoffs, but they've won 64 games. The Knicks, I know they don't have a coach, but they're going to pretty much have their roster back that got to the conference finals last year. And the Magic made some moves here. I know they haven't proven in the playoffs, but the combination. We'll see who they draft tonight, but the combination of Bane, the combination of Wagner and Paolo Banchero, the combination of those guys, they can make noise in the Eastern Conference. And don't forget about the Bucks either. We'll see what we'll see what they do with Giannis, and if they trade him or put guys around Giannis. So I think the Celtics are another team that I think their ceiling is the second round without Tatum. I think it is. And here's the nonsense that people have been talking about recently. This Jaylen Brown stuff it's all the Jaylen Brown stuff is nonsense. To me, there's no way that Jaylen Brown is that Jaylen Brown's getting traded. Listen to Cubs. There's no way Jaylen Brown's getting traded. That's ridiculous. That would be completely tearing apart the 2024 team.
Yeah. See, if they could not move Drew Holiday or Porzingis, they were probably going to be forced to move Jaylen Brown. But now that Porzingis and Holiday and they're going to get under that cap, the second apron, that they're going to be okay and they're going to keep Jaylen Brown now. But so I agree. There's no chance that they move Jaylen Brown now unless if the Bucks offer something like Giannis, which I don't wouldn't happen. But yeah, something crazy like that. I think they're holding on Jaylen Brown at this point, but. Yeah, I could understand a couple of days ago why they were maybe thinking about it if they couldn't move Holiday or Porzingis, but obviously they have here the last couple of days.
Yeah, they have, and I think it makes sense. It makes sense for them to get under the luxury because this isn't a year where they're going to compete for a championship, so it makes sense to shed salary, get under the luxury tax, get under the second apron, and compete as hard as you can, but. It just isn't a year. This is the year to do it. If there's a year to do it, this is the year to do it to get rid of players, and they've done it. So I give Brad Stevens credit for that, and I give him credit for the return to get 2 first-round picks for Drew Holiday, and then get 2 second-round picks for Drew Holiday, and a second-round pick for KP. KP, as we said, Brad Stevens did a good job here.
Yeah, he absolutely done, and he's done an unbelievable job as the kind of basketball operations guy up there in Boston, and he's got a solid return there, and made off pretty well, and we'll see. Simmons, I think maybe they could decide to kind of lock Simmons' potential here.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But we got to talk about the biggest trade. It happened the day of Game 7, the biggest trade in the NBA, and that was Kevin Durant. He was traded to the Rockets for a couple first-round picks and Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. And the big question is are the Rockets the biggest threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's the Denver Nuggets because the Nuggets took the Thunder to 7 games with a banged up Aaron Gordon and a banged up Michael Porter Jr. And let's not forget the Nuggets still have the best player in the league. And the Rockets, yes, they were the number 2 seed, but let's be real. We thought they were more like a 6 or 7 seed with the team they had. Now, does this make the Rockets better? Absolutely. Does Durant make them better? Without question. But I still would not say they're the biggest threat to the Thunder in the Western Conference now that they traded for KD.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they're the biggest threat either. To be honest, I don't love it for Houston. I just think because now I know Jalen Green kind of struggled to be the number 1 guy during the playoffs. I get that. They struggled to score the basketball. KD's going to be 36, 37 now next year. He's been banged up. He's always kind of cried his way out of town. And I just think you gave up too much for a guy that he's probably gonna have, maybe saying Sengun or Sengun. Yeah, maybe he could be the number 1, but like more than likely, KD's gonna be the number 1 guy here. And I don't know if he could win a title in this Western Conference right now, kind of being the number 1 guy with what with Denver still with Jokic, with OKC and their young core. So I just think it's to be difficult for Houston and kind of KD here. So they're trying to go all in here, and I just think they gave up too much. And I just worry how many games KD's going to even play next year.
I get what you're saying, but the Rockets, with the roster the way they were constructed at the moment, were definitely not good enough to win a championship. They weren't. And Jalen Green being the guy, he didn't even in the 4 games they lost to the Warriors in that 7-game series, he did not get to double figures in any of those games. The Rockets had to make a move like this to get themselves in contention. They had to make a move like this. And I get, KD, you get what happened in Brooklyn, you get what happened in Phoenix, but I think this is a better roster construction than he's had there. You saw they just extended Van Fleet. Thompson is Amen Thompson is an ascending player. You got him. So I do think, and you have Şengün, who's a really good center. So I think this is the best situation KD has been in since he's been with the Warriors, and they got a really good coach in Ime Udoka. So to me, I know the Rockets aren't the favorite, and we said it, they weren't the biggest threat to beat the Thunder, but I think this was their best shot to be contenders. I think they had to make this move to be contenders in the Western Conference. I just think it's a move they had to make.
Yeah, and I get that. I just think he gave up too much. The 2 first-round picks, giving up Jalen Green, which I get he's struggled in the postseason, but you could have added him with still if you could have kept him with the KD, I think that would have helped him out a little bit more because um, I get kind of trading Dylan Brooks, but I just think they gave up a little bit too much, and I just think at KD's age, it's because like when it I know that Nets team he's kind of the number one option, and the shoe on the line and all that against the Bucks. He hasn't really won a championship as like the number one option, and I think at this point in his career, I think it's going to be pretty tough to do it now in Houston, especially just how loaded this Western Conference is. So yeah, they are. I totally get they're taking a swing and they're trying to go for the title right now. I just don't think it's gonna. I just don't think it's gonna pan out.
Now we talk about how difficult it's going to be in the West. Where would you put them? Where would you put them in the Western Conference? Where would you put them in the West? And I would say fourth. I definitely put them. You definitely obviously put them below the defending champs, the Thunder. I put them below the Nuggets. I put them below the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves have been to the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. And I would probably put them. I put them at fourth. I'm going to go fourth. I put up a little bit of. I put them above the Warriors and the Lakers could be close, but LeBron's aging and Luka's got to get better defensively. So I'd put them fourth. I put them fourth. I put them a little bit ahead of the Warriors and Lakers. I put them fourth. I go fourth. I got them as a top 4 team in the West with Kevin Durant.
I have him fifth. I got Thunder, Nuggets, Lakers, Timberwolves. I, I know. I think now with the Lakers selling, it sounds like there's going to be a lot. They're going to kind of do things differently now, and I think it's the Dodgers owner, and it sounds like they're going to do the same thing like the Dodgers do, and they develop really well and identify talent really well. So I think the Lakers are going to start doing that, this offseason. So I think the Lakers are going to be pretty good shape next year. So I'm going to put them closer to fifth. But them and the Lakers are kind of right there for fourth for me right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's close. I do think they're a title contender, though. I do think they're a contender. I know Durant hasn't won a championship as the best player, but he's still a really talented player. And I think you have as I said, ascending player in Amen Thompson. You got a good point guard in Fred VanVleet. You got a good center. It's a solid team. And in this apron era, Indiana proved you might not need a top 10 player to win a championship now with this new CBA. So I am going to say they are a title contender because they definitely are. They were a team. Now, were they a number 2 seed? No, I think they overachieved. They played over their heads, but they are now with Kevin Durant, Jalen Green. So I do think they're improved. I think they're a title contender.
I gonna say yes. I think I'll say yes here, like a 5 because they do still have KD and Fun V's a nice point guard, and if Thompson, I know you're high on Thompson. I like the way he played against the Warriors. If he can make that next step, sure. And Sengun's a solid center that could, kind of that new age can kind of, handle the basketball and be the point guard. So, so I will say they're kind of they are a title contender if everything kind of breaks away next year and they could kind of get out. If they can maybe catch a team, maybe somebody upsets somebody and they kind of go that way. So I will say they're title contender, but kind of that probably they're like the cutoff for me probably right now in the Western Conference.
Yeah, it probably is. It probably is. They're like the 4th or 5th best team, I think, in the West. And I mean, but I do like the trade. I do like the trade for the Rockets because the way they were constructed, I didn't feel like there was any way they were going to win. There was anywhere they're going to win. This was a trade they needed to make a deep playoff run, and we'll see what happens for them. But we got to, before we wrap up with the NBA, we got to recap the NBA Finals. And on Sunday night, the Thunder 1-7 over the Pacers. But the big storyline of that Game 7 wasn't the Thunder winning. It was Tyrese Halliburton suffering a torn Achilles 7 minutes into the game. When he started red hot, he had like 3 threes. He was red hot to start the game, but then he tears his Achilles. Pacers hang in there. I'll give him credit. They hung in, but that 19-2 run between the third and fourth quarter pretty much sealed it, and the Thunder end up winning their first championship since they moved to Oklahoma City, 103-91. But the big question is with Halliburton suffering that Achilles injury in Game 7, would the result been different if Halliburton stayed in the game? I think it would have been a closer game. I think it would have been like maybe a 4 or 5 point game. I think it would have been a really close game at the end. But I don't think the result would have been different. I still think the Thunder would have won the championship, even if Halliburton stayed healthy in that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the game would have been closer. Because like you saw, you mentioned an 18-2 run. The Pacers really missed having Halliburton there as a ball handler and as a playmaker because the Thunder have done what they've done pretty much all season long and forced a lot of turnovers and been trapped. And Indiana's really struggled with that. So yeah, I agree. I think it would have been a closer game, but OKC, I think they only lost back-to-back games like twice all year. I think one of the times was like at the end of the regular season, and then once again in November or December. So like I think this OKC team would have found a way to hang in, win that basketball game. But yeah, I agree. It probably would have been closer, and it would have, would have been a close basketball game.
Yeah, I think it would have. I think it definitely would have been. It definitely would have been. But yeah, I think that OKC would have still won the thing at home. I still think they would have won it at home. And the big reason why they won the championship is SGA. And this leads me to my next point. Where does this title put SGA? What does this do for his legacy? And I think this is huge for his legacy. I think it makes him the greatest Thunder player ever. I think it does. Kevin Durant, as we just previously talked about, didn't win a championship and then walked away from OKC and joined a 73-win Warrior team to win 2 titles. I think this makes it makes him the greatest Thunder player of all time. The greatest player I think I'm going to make the history different between the Sonics and Thunder. He's the greatest player in the history of the Thunder, and I think right now he's clearly, without question, a top 3 player in the league with Jokic and Giannis. Like he's gotten ahead of Luka. He's went ahead of Luka because of this championship and because of the way he stepped up. And he was great in this finals. He was great. He was the Finals MVP. What he did in Game 4 was phenomenal. That was phenomenal. He played like an MVP. He played like a Super Bowl. He was a superstar. And he played like a champion. And to me, he's clearly a top 3 player in the league and the greatest player in the history of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I agree with that. Being the best player, in the history of the Thunder, and their like 17-year history here. Yeah, because KD or Westbrook, those guys, those OKC teams couldn't get it done. And couldn't get out of the West Finals with the couple of opportunities they had it. Yeah, I think SGA's he's such an unbelievable scorer. And he does it kind of 3 because I do think now he's probably ahead of Luka, and I know defense isn't like a huge thing in the NBA, but like SGA plays defense and he's a solid defender where Luka just doesn't play it at all. And yeah, SGA 3 level kind of score. You can kind of say he flops a little bit to get the line, but he does do it really well where he does get to the line often. He's gotten better at 3-point shooting. So yeah, I think this definitely really helps his legacy here. And that's such a young kind of OKC team, and they still got a ton of draft picks, and they can't keep them all. So maybe they maneuver something in the upcoming years and bring another star player to come play with them.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And the other question is seeing how young Oklahoma City is, seeing how young SGA is, seeing how young Jalen Williams is, seeing how young that Chet Holmgren is. Is there a chance they can become a dynasty? And I know we ask this question all the time. We know there's been 7 straight champions in the NBA. There's some, I think 8 straight new champions, 7 straight new champions in the NBA since the Warriors won it. So. But I think they can. I think they can become a dynasty just because of how young they are, and they're going to have a top 3 player in the sport for almost a decade. Jalen Williams is a really good number 2, and Chet Holmgren. I don't think Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren have reached their ceilings yet. So I'm going to say yes. I think the Thunder can become a dynasty. I think they definitely can.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely can because like you think about it next year, even they get out of the Western Conference. I don't think there's anybody right now in the East that could beat them.
No
Now
way.
to be
No way.
challenging, yeah,
No way.
yeah,
Especially with the lack of experience, especially with them having experience now.
yeah, absolutely. And I know a couple times they kind of this series and other series, so it looks like maybe they can go down, but yeah, I think with how young they are, with still all the draft assets they have left, they're definitely kind of on their way to. I think it'd be disappointing if this core doesn't win another one in the next couple of years, barring any kind of injuries or anything like that. So yeah, I think this OKC team definitely kind of feels like they can be that next dynasty with how young they are, with the depth that they have. And you mentioned, yeah, with Jalen Williams and Holgren still kind of not reaching their ceiling yet, and still both being really young players, and the guys that have to help off the bench as well. So yeah, I think this OKC team something special going on right now.
They do. They definitely do. They definitely do. And it just and this shows you why Sam Presti is the best GM in the league. He's the best GM in the league. That trade he made, trading Paul George for SGA, it's going to be one of the best trades in NBA history. It was a great trade, resulted in a championship. And then the 2022 draft was genius. They got their second and third best players in one draft. Got Holmgren when they had a top pick, and they had a top pick with Chet Holmgren. But the big one was that mid-round, 12th, I think it was number 12 overall when they took Jalen Williams. Phenomenal pick. And he was huge in the finals. He was huge. He was a great Robin to SGA's. SGA was Batman. He was and Williams was Robin. Sam Presti, the best GM in basketball. There wasn't a GM that deserved to win a title more, and he did it. And he did it this year with the Thunder.
Yeah, he did. He's done an unbelievable job with building this roster and building this team, and identifying like the right pieces as well. In the draft and bringing in SGA too in that trade, and giving up Paul George and getting what they got from the Clippers, which which really helped kind of get this thing going there. And they Presti's done an unbelievable job there, and they still got. I don't know how many it is off the top of my head, but they still have so many first round picks that they got in the next so many years as well. So, they Presti's done an unbelievable job building that team. And I said it last week. This is how kind of small market teams should also try to run their franchises.
Absolutely, without question.
When you feel like your core when the core that the team has doesn't have it, to do what kind of OKC did and just build it up through the draft.
Yeah, and the thing is I think you're going to see as with this new CBA, this is going to become. We're going to know more GMs' names now in the NBA, because the NBA we really weren't knowing it. The average fan, and we knew, but the average fan doesn't know a ton of GMs' names because it's became a super. Ever since LeBron made that decision for really a decade, it was a stars league. Now it's becoming more of an organization. Now, do superstars still win championships? Yes. Do they still win titles? Yes. There's only been two teams in my lifetime. There have been two teams in the last 45 years that didn't have a top 10 player that won a championship. 2004 Pistons, 2014 Spurs. But I think this is becoming more of an organization league. Now, that's why I'm excited for the draft tonight. This is becoming more about organizations than because with this new salary, this new CBA, you can't it's almost impossible to have, two superstars on a team with the salaries you have and expect to be a great team. So I think winning this year is showing you that this is becoming more of an NFL, more of a GM and organizational league than it's becoming more of that league than it's been. I think we might have lost Justin there, but yeah, like I said, it's becoming more of that league than it's been. So we'll wrap up. Oh, you got your back.
Oh yeah. So I completely agree with saying it's organizations now are going to have more of an impact here. And it's and I think that's good for the NBA. Like I as where you do have a good number of kind of small market teams, and it's like if they don't hit, like you're never gonna, they're never gonna find those big superstars. So I do like kind of the second kind of going away, change the new CBA rules here as well. So yeah, the organization and the drafts are gonna mean kind of a lot more, and we'll kind of see, and we'll see if more organizations try to do what OKC did, and because I think that's going to be the way to go.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. If that happens. But we were going to wrap the show talking some baseball, and we'll talk about the Yankees. You thought they might have snapped out of it, winning 3 out of 4. You thought, when they had that 6-game losing streak, they beat the Angels. They won 2 out of 3 with the Orioles. You thought they snapped out of it, but they've now lost 2 to the Reds, and it's just it's the offense being inconsistent. It's the bullpen not getting the job done. They didn't get the job done against the Orioles on Friday night. Then last night, I think last night was on boom. I mean, Rondon threw 88 pitches, should have never came out of that game. They should have never put Loizaga in. That loss last night was on boom. But the issue is this offense continues to be inconsistent. I mean, I think the starting pitching has actually been the strength recently. Rondon's pitched well. Fried wasn't great last start, but he's been great all year. Clark Schmidt was excellent against the Orioles. So the starting pitching, I think it's been like the strength recently, but the lineup and the bullpen have struggled. And then Boone made a bad move last night. And the Yankees, they're struggling, and Tampa is right on their heels. I think they're like a game or a game and a half out now. So this Yankee game out. So this Yankee team is just both New York teams are struggling. I don't think the Mets are struggling more, but the Yankees, they are really, really struggling right now, and they're becoming the team that you thought they were going to be in the preseason.
Yeah, this is it's been a tough month here. I said last week, the last 4 years of the way they've kind of started out, they always fall apart June, July, and yeah, it's coming ahead again. Yeah, Boone absolutely still has zero feel for a baseball game, and it just I it's hard to watch. And yeah, you mentioned it, like the starting pitching. Thank God it's been as good as it's been, because with this lineup right now, they'd be in big trouble. And yeah, Schmidt's been unbelievable, and now it's been 27 to 2/3 of an inning without giving up an earned run. So he's been awesome the last few starts here. Freed's been good all year. Hopefully good start tonight and they can salvage against Cincinnati. But yeah, last night bullpen wasn't great. And yeah, the extra inning stuff again. They just it's just mind boggling. And
Here's the thing: how do you not get a run in two innings and a runner on second extra innings?
I don't know. But they do it all the time. Like last week against the Angels, they went 3 innings without doing it.
And again, the way they're constructed, that's the problem. That's the problem with the way they're constructed. Hitting home runs and not moving guys over. The way they're constructed, it's been a problem, and it's been a problem for years in extra innings.
Yeah, but again, for whatever reason, I don't know why it doesn't seem like they value it. I guess so now so far this year they have 5 losses already when winning by leading by multiple runs at the start of the 7th inning. 5 losses already. That's most in MLB. And the Reds were 0-30 after 0 for 30 this year when trailing after 6 innings. Obviously now they're 1-30. So it's pathetic. And then you talk about kind of the home run. There's 2 guys on this team that have a 2-strike approach. That's Goldie and that's Bellinger. 2 guys who did not come up through the system.
The 2 veterans in the lineup.
Yeah.
2 veterans in the lineup. And they're probably hearing about the Yankee approach, and they're saying that's nonsense. When you got to have a 2-strike approach, you're not going to help your team.
Yeah. And if you go back and look at Volpe's stats in the minor leagues, he wasn't a guy he was a doubles and singles guy at this minor leagues. For whatever reason now, at like a 5'9" shortstop, they want to try to make a 30 home run guy. I don't remember how many 5'9" guys are like big 30-run power guys every year.
None of them are.
No. Chris Davis was, maybe for a couple years there, but that fell apart. But it's just it's just mind-boggling how again, it's just through the minor league system, all they care about is launch angle and hitting as many, and they don't really care if you strike out. They'd rather try to see you hit a home run, even if even an 0-2 count with a man on third with nobody out. They'd rather see you try to hit a 2-run home run instead of just getting that runner home and it's a sac fly. So it's just ridiculous. And the last thing too here, can we please move Jazz back to second?
I know.
It's making the infield worse. I know you can't put DJ over there either, but your second and third baseman, the range right now, both of them for the metrics are not great. You're just making the defense worse.
Exactly. And LeMahieu doesn't do enough at the plate to have him play either. So yeah, move Jazz to second, maybe move Peraza to third. That might be my option. Move Peraza
he's a good defender. Yeah, I would worry about the bat. I don't know if the bat's going to come.
Who'll be your third baseman?
Yeah, that's the thing. They're going to need to find one at the deadline.
Yeah, because that's the thing is they really don't have a great third baseman. So, but I'd agree though. They need to move Jazz back to second if they're they had Jazz playing second last year. They might have been playing. Everything was playing.
He played third in the postseason, I think.
In the postseason,
where he'd never done it before. They're like, hey,
But they got to move Jazz back to second. I agree with you there.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thinking for third base, I have to trade the line right now. Suarez in Arizona,
that would be crazy.
Winning.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, he's a pending free agent.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
I don't know if it fits Yankee Stadium, but he would fit because he strikes out a lot and he'll hit home runs. So he fits the Yankees philosophy. So trying to think who else is out of it. Like McMahon's having a horrible year in Colorado. I know they've been linked to him before. Brian Hayes is not a good hitter in Pittsburgh. I don't know who else. That's a problem.
I think the thing is you have no at this point. You probably if you don't want him to play third, you have no choice, and you got to play Peraza.
Yeah, that bat's. I don't know if the bat's ever going to come. He's a great defender. He just the bat I worry about. So yeah, that's going to be something they're going to have to fix here. Near the deadline, but yeah, because I know Lombard they like him at third, but like he's still in Double A. I don't think he's not going to be ready this year. So yeah, you're going to have to find somebody for next year or so because. Even like Arenado, like I don't think St. Louis is going to be a seller here, so you might have, so I don't even think if you even wanted Arenado, I don't think he's going to be available unless they tailspin here in the next month or so.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees going forward. They got a big series with the Mets. The team is playing terribly. They got a big series with the Mets next weekend, and they got. So the thing about the Yankees is you look at it. They got after the A series, they got at when they head into the All-Star break, they got at Toronto, at the Mets. They got the Cubs. They've got the Cubs in Seattle. So there's going to be some tough games going into the All-Star break for the Yankees. Some tough series is going to the All-Star break for them.
Yeah. They better start to wake it up because and then even after they got Toronto again, you got the Phillies, which I know have been very up and down, and then you got a big 4-game homestand right before the deadline against the Rays. So, so the month of July is not going to get any easier. This was the easy part of the schedule, and they've done a horrible job here as well. So. Losing 3 out of 4 against the Angels at home is
inexcusable.
Just,
and losing the first 2 to the Reds, inexcusable too.
It's inexcusable. But again, it's every year June and July. They just for whatever reason, just the bats just stop working, and the approaches go out the window, and they don't try anything different. It's like, okay, well, we're striking out a ton. We're not doing a good job scoring position. Let's just shorten things up and let's just go the other way, just try to get a base hit. But it's just doing the same thing over and over again. It's just I don't know. I'm at a lot. I've just a lot of loss of words for this organization. It just hasn't changed, and it's just nothing changed. Again, I've said this for a couple years now. You're trying to play the Tampa Bay Rays system, and like the Rays must laugh at you that you're one of the biggest payrolls in the sport, and you're relying so much on analytics and all this. I get it for finding you're the Yankees. Stop trying to play the way the Tampa Bay Rays do all the time. You don't need to.
Yeah. Crazy. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees going forward. But we got to move on to another team. That's the Red Sox. They lost 4 in a row. 3 to the Giants this week. And here's the thing. I know Devers went 2 for 12, but one of those 2 was a home run. 2 was a home run. So, I mean, and they lost the game 3 to 2. And then last night, Garrett Crochet throws a gem. Has a great performance, and guess what happens? They lose that game as well because they can't hit. I mean, I think the Devers trade is a bad trade. I think it's going to I think things are just going to get worse and worse for this team. I don't think this team is getting better. I think they got a big series in Toronto, and if they lose that series to Toronto, I think things are just going to keep getting worse for them. I just don't see it getting better. There's just nothing consistent about this team right now. The lineup's not consistent. The pitching staff, the depth and rotation is not there, and the bullpen, which is really outside of getting the ball to Chapman, has not been good. I think this is going to be another. I think this is going to be another 75 to 78 win team. Where to me, if the fans want Breslow out because of this trade, I think it could happen. And Cora, is he going to be the manager next year? I know he signed an extension, but to see what this organization's been doing, trading all these top players, why would you want to manage this team? Why would you want to manage this team right now? If you're Alex Cora.
Yeah, it's it's I know Cora a lot of kind of frustrations right now with the way things are going, and losing Devers now. And again, you started the road trip 3-1 and it looked pretty promising, but now you lost 4 straight, and losing last night kind of clinches a losing record here on the West Coast trip. So for them, after like this weekend, you got before the All-Star break, you got the Reds, you got the Nationals, and you got Colorado coming in, and then you got the Rays. But like you kind of got it next, outside of Toronto and like Tampa, you got like a 9-game stint there where you can kind of try to rattle off 6, 7 wins there, and things start to look a little bit better. But yeah, the lineup's been inconsistent, and their starting pitcher ERA is 4.19. It's 11th in the MLB. But like, take out Crochet, that's probably a 5. I know Bell's been pretty good of late, but like that's a lot worse if you take out Crochet. So Bell's been better, which has helped. But yeah, and I know they're gonna get Richard Fitz's pitches tonight, but like Bueller just 6, 7 walks the other night.
Oh,
It's been
Bueller's
pretty
awful.
bad.
Bueller's
So
been terrible for them. Bueller's been
yeah,
terrible for them.
yeah. Yeah, he's had a rough year, and I know it's been tough. But yeah, the line's been inconsistent, and I think Roman Anthony's hitting some bad luck kind of early on here. He'll get going, but it's just it's a very young lineup right now without Bregman too. Like, you don't even have him right now. So yeah, it's an experienced young lineup, and they're going through it right now.
They definitely are. They absolutely are. There's no question that they are. And yeah, I think they got to take advantage of the stretch they have though. I mean, you got the Blue Jays, which you pick up some ground, a team that's behind you. At home, you got the Reds, who are I know they're beating the Yankees. They're an average team, and you got the Nationals and Rockies. The Rockies at home, so you could keep yourself in it before the trade deadline. But if this team can't stay in it but if this team loses these series, these series, when they get to the second half of the year, if they're still under 500, there's a really good chance that this team could be selling. This team could be selling, because you look at their stretch. They coming out of the All-Star break at the Cubs, Phillies, Dodgers. That is brutal. If they're still under 500, there's at the All-Star break, there's a good chance they're going to be 6 games under 500. In the late, going to the trade deadline. And at that point, they're going to have to sell. They're going to have to sell.
Yeah, they would have to sell. At that point, if they can't beat like the Nationals and the Rockies the next couple weeks, or even the Reds, they can't get them at home. Yeah, you mentioned, man, after the All-Star break, the Cubs, the Phillies, the Dodgers. I know the Twins aren't very good, but then you got Houston and KC, and you got a pretty tough stretch after the All-Star break 2 years. So yeah, they gotta kind of figure out, they gotta try to rattle off a couple kind of serious wins here, try to get like a couple sweeps in Washington, Colorado, and feel a little bit better. And hopefully, where if the front office does make a move or two, you got 250 million now a cap open, so like maybe you don't use that till the off season, but maybe they Breslo's got to try to do something if the team's in there to bring a veteran bat in, a veteran an arm in there. So yeah, and it's tough, and today's I don't think the Angels are even gonna be in the playoff like wild card kind of mix, but they are tied right now. And if the Angels do win, they take the series this year 4-2. So if it for whatever reason come down to tiebreaker somehow, the Angels would kind of knock them off here too. So I guess especially the Angels probably aren't going to be in the mix at the end, but if they somehow are, they lose tiebreaker, they lose today. So
Yeah, we'll see. And yeah, things need to pick up for the Red Sox, and it starts this week. And for them, but unfortunately for them, they're not going to have their ace. They're not going to have their ace on the hill when they face Toronto. They're going to, and Toronto's going to pitch 2 of their better pitchers with Bassett and Berrios. So it's going to be a tough series for them against Toronto, and I could very easily see them losing it. And then if they start losing, especially if they struggle early in the series, I see the fan base start to boo and still have that Rafael Devers trade in their heads.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend to see how the crowd is at Fenway this weekend. If it's kind of fired up, maybe you win 2 out of 3. Maybe the fan base starts feeling a little bit better about the way things are going. It helps that you do have a lot of young stars and Meyer and Anthony and Brady and Durant that fans are probably gonna want to kind of see. But yeah, they kind of continue to start losing. They lose 2 out of 3, maybe get blown out a game. It's gonna be interesting how the fan base reacts. And Bella's been good of late. Set the tone Friday night against Barrios. So maybe get the homestand off to a good start on Friday night there would be kind of huge for them.
Yeah, big series for them this week. They got a homestand. They got a 6-game homestand with the Blue Jays and the Reds. Then they go to Washington. Then they have another 7-game homestand with the Rockies and Rays. So a lot of home games at Fenway Park in late June and early July for the Red Sox. So they got to take advantage of that, and we'll see if they do. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about the NBA offseason, the NBA offseason, the Yankees and Red Sox, and any NFL news that comes our way. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.